get into too much that's very complicated because I don't really know it. So I'll give you the stuff that's real critical. And there's a few numbers. There's 1500, and of course this is Fahrenheit. 1425. 400. And then over here in time is 0.5 seconds. 1 second. And 2 seconds. Okay? You'll notice this big, I'll put it in red, it's terrible. You'll notice this big kind of nose that projects into the diagram. And that's got a big P on it, perlite. So steel's natural resting state, its natural soft resting state, is called perlite. Because under a microscope, it looks like mother of pearl. You'll hear me say three ites: austenite, perlite, martensite. And that's really the only three that you kind of need to know, except for bainite if you're Howard. But we won't get into that. So you have this perlite nose, and what I'm going to indicate on this chart will be two non-ideal cooling curves and one ideal cooling curve. So come up to 1500, 1425 is just the temperature at which steel turns non-magnetic. And just got to go just a little farther to 1500 or so to kind of really dissolve everything in 1084. So 1425, that's non-magnetic. Right here, we're going to make this lesson. So you have three cooling curves. You have one where it takes 2 seconds in a slow oil, one where it takes 1 second, moderately slow oil, and one where it takes 0.5 seconds. That's like a fast oil, like Parks 50, should be used a steel engine. Or any of the simple steels, 10x2. So, say that again. Parks 50 is a fast oil, and it just gives you the ideal cooling curve for this, so that you won't fool around. So you have another line here. That's 400. And this is the MS start line, so martensite start. 400 degrees is the starting point at which martensite begins to form. And I'll get into a little bit of why that's important later. 400 is where it starts.
You can cool it out or
Cool, it only happens on a cooling curve. If it's an air hardening steel, of course you pull it out in still air. This nose is way over in the train yard. But so this is just for 1084. So we have a very non-ideal cooling curve, which passes its majority through the perlite nose. So if you cool down too slow, and you pass through with your cooling curve through that nose, you're going to get either a mixture of perlite or complete perlite. So it'll be 50-50 perlite martensite, martensite only in the thinner cross sections, which can be ideal depending on what you want to do. Not really ideal for most of the video. We'll be fully hardening this blade, so we want as much martensite as possible. This middle one at 1 second, which just ever so slightly passes through the perlite nose. So maybe 75-25, still not ideal. And this half a second cooling curve. So bringing everything down past about 900 right here at the tip of the nose, and then into this 400 and lower. So why is this 400 important? And of course, it's obvious why this cooling curve is important, because we want to stay out of that perlite nose. So why is 400 important? 400 gives you a very magical point in the blade's heat treating, and that's a grace period at which you can string any warps. So if you cool down past 900, you get past that nose, and you get to 400, and you pull it out. It's in a state of austenite, which is the excited non-magnetic form of steel. So you heat it up, past 1425 begins to form austenite. 1500, the whole blade's nice and hot, nice and even. It's austenite, it's bendy, it's non-magnetic. Very malleable. So, as you cool it down, if this is martensite start and you miss the perlite nose, and you're above the point at which martensite begins to start, you're still austenite, but you're in unstable austenite. So it's like, I'm almost there, but it still acts like hot steel. You'll notice when mace quenches, if you can do it right, and I hope you can, you'll be able to pull it out, and maybe either induce warp and then correct it.
I'm not inducing warp.
Or if there is warp, he'll be able to correct it, which undoubtedly there will be, because I've mentioned.
Well, when I quench it, you can have some heavy gloves ready.
Yeah, I will. So you cool it down and you pull it out of the oil at just around 400, 350. You don't really want all that marcent to form so much, because it gives you this grace period at which you can straighten. And you can use very heavy gloves and you can bend it around, and sometimes it is exceptionally soft. It's just like the steel is blowing.
Like way overbended.
Yeah, like I could probably bend it in half and bring it back and let it air harden the rest of the way down from 400 to room temperature, and it would be hard just fine.
That wouldn't create it like any stress or anything?
No, not at all.
So, but this is my second normalization. We needed a little bit, my first one was that non-magnetic, over non-magnetic, and now I'm starting to do some reducing these to try to find the grain structure of the steel. Again, trying to do this evenly, slowly and evenly, bringing everything up to temperature, slowly and evenly. It's not about throwing it in that forge.
You're resetting the grain structure from all the uneven and unusual heat that occurs during the forging process. So you're basically taking that grain structure that's like this, resetting it to be like this, and then refining it to be nice and fine.
So is that like normalizing step that you did not bring it out?
Yeah, that's a normalization.
Okay.
If you feel that your grain structure is really, really jacked up, you can throw a quench in there in that cycle to really refine the grain. Like really dragging, kicking, screaming, and making it hard steel to kind of refine the grain. If you're starting out with large grains, you're still going to end up with large grains. So it's not really something you can just quench. And like what we have, or just quench one.
I think maybe what we'll do is try to find a piece of steel and show them
throw the grain line. Yeah.
Normalization is always like a 3-step.
Yeah, usually it's a good rule of thumb that folks are just doing normalizations, one higher and then lower and so forth. If you have really good control in a kiln, ideally it's good to reset the grain heavily at 1600 or 1650, right? Walk it down to 1550, 1500, and maybe 1450.
Is there a point below which you want to get it before you heat it up again? It seems like
Yes. Yes. It's rule of thumb's too high heat.
Yeah, black heat, so that's what I'm doing. I'll let it come down to temperature. But I'm maintaining some heat in that steel so that when I go back in,
It doesn't take so long.
yeah, it doesn't take so long, and I'm overheating edges and tips and stuff like that.
What temperature is black heat?
Like 800 or 900. Okay. In a very dark room, you can see color in steel, so like almost 800.
Yeah, and you can, you know, obviously I'm sitting in the room up front so I can see what's going on here. And I'm really doing this by eye, checking a little bit every now and then with that. But
You can get, I know you've done a few, but see if you can get precalescence to show up.
what?
The shadow.
Okay. Okay, I'll take it low.
Yeah. Just take it way high. Take it pretty high. Flip around and get the whole blade so we
I
can
don't
see
know if I
it.
want to do that to this one.
Travel over the whole blade. So, you know, you don't have a kiln, you don't have any kind of furnace that has any kind of control. Such a baby!
I want to concentrate on what I'm doing.
Don't worry, I'll break that blade.
Going through this process, this won't break this right. We'll make it small and really start to make the body getting darker.
Absolutely. And tougher steel.
yeah, holds your steel together better. Imagine this room filled with beach balls. And you'd probably walk right through the room. You'd have to push the walls around a little bit, but you'd be able to walk right through. And then imagine this room filled with sand and how hard it would be to get through the room.
Yeah. Because when those grains are large, they're more apt to break away from the structure. So if you look at the edge under a microscope, you'll see these large grains, and you try to attempt to put a fine edge on there. And of course, the grains being large, they'll brittle, they'll pop out, and they'll take a huge chunk of that edge with them. The grains are fine. One pops out, it only leaves a very small can actually be much better because it gives you micro serrations. Unlike a magnifying 100 times to the point. You can't even see it. You shouldn't see it with your naked eye. If you're seeing serrations on your edge from cutting stuff with your naked eye, your brain is either huge or the blade's too long.
I'll try to think this one up and I'll
Okay. Yes. So you don't have a kiln. You kind of don't have any of that stuff. What I'll do, because I don't have a thermocouple in the stuff, is I'll take a really high heat, almost a mid to high orange, never yellow, just to make sure that I've taken a high enough heat to reset all the damage done from the forging process. And then I'll come down and I'll hit non-magnetic, let it go a little farther, pull it out, and then I'll hit non-magnetic and go just a little bit farther, and then pull it out. So you just kind of do what you can. But there's another thing that you can find, and this is really awesome, because this is where myth and science come together. Japanese will talk all this difficult stuff about heat treating blades, and you'll look for the color of the harvest moon, and you'll look for kami, spirits in the blade to be moving across in the form of shadows. What you're actually seeing is the phase change of the crystal structure occurring, and on the way up it's an endothermic reaction, and on the way down it's an exothermic reaction. So we're going to attempt to show that to you. It's called recoalescence and decoalescence. What it actually shows you is a real live TTT diagram without any of that crap. None of the ites, none of the science, none of the temperatures. It shows you the reality of what's occurring in your steel and at what temperature that occurs. And that's the temperature and colors that you should train your eye to. So you'll notice, watch along the edge of the blade. Watch very closely. You'll see a shadow cross, but then it'll get brighter again, and then it'll get darker after that. Yep, so you see the red there? Yep. So that's the crystalline structure making a phase change from a face-centered three-dimensional cube to a body-centered on the way up.
What it's doing is it's getting hotter.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not getting hotter. It's, well, it is and it isn't. To make the crystalline phase structure change, as it's cooling down from a body-centered, where the carbon molecule is centered in the center of the body of the three-dimensional cubic lattice of iron, to a face-centered lattice, it needs energy to make that conversion. So it needs energy in the form of heat and light. So as it's cooling down, you'll see the shadow come up. That's the molecules grabbing that energy, making the conversion, and then letting go of the energy. So you'll see, as it cools down, it'll get dark, brighter, and then dark. It's really hard to see when it's not actually dark.
Face-centered crystal structure is the more relaxed.
Yes. I'm terrible at three-dimensional drawing. So when it's body center, of course, that molecule is the body. When it's face center, you want to grab here. Centered on the face, just like a die. But the snake eyes all around, depending on the amount of carbon involved. Body centered carbon, face centered carbon, each of these on the corner. Yeah, when one changes the other, it's an endothermic reaction on the way down, exothermic on the way down, endothermic on the way up. It's on the way down, it's exothermic. On the way up, it's endothermic. Endothermic is like exothermic. It's that's that brightness, yeah. You'll see one dark line, then a bright line, then it gets cool for the rest.